Barbell Therapy. I am your host. I'm Kate. I am an online fitness coach who has been helping women change their life for the last 3 years. And this time, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I have been doing to get fit for my wedding and how I'm going to maintain that for years to come. Okay. So I don't want to drone on too much about my background because I feel like I talk about myself a lot and I talk about my background a lot. But a lot of you know, but summary, okay? I was a pretty thin stick figure child, super thin. And in literally going from 7th grade to 8th grade, I gained a bunch of weight, not in like I did not become chubby. I just went through puberty. I gained a hips, butt, all the things. And I've had that since I was really little. So, I know that a lot of people glorify it and that's all great and dandy. But let me tell you, when you're like in 8th grade and you just don't understand like what a figure is, especially back in 2008 when figures were, skinny Britney Spears, anyway, moving on. So I was a super active kid. I was in a lot of sports. I was never athletic, but I loved doing all the sports that I was doing. I was a swimmer, major, I cheered, and then I also played a little bit of softball here and there and basketball. I was really bad at basketball, but that's besides the point. So super active as a kid. I was never really fat, but I was never in shape either. I remember in cheer, I would get we would do our routines full out and stuff. I would my throat would burn. I would taste like I was tasting iron or whatever. And I went to the doctor and they told me that I had exercise-induced asthma. As an adult who is a professional in strength conditioning, I know that that is not what I had and I didn't need an inhaler. I literally needed to actually exercise my cardiovascular system. And yeah, besides the point. Anyway, so after that, I actually ended up fracturing my back in cheer, had to quit. It was devastating. I would go to the gym, there was a gym 5 minutes away from my house. And if you listened to last week's episode, it was all about motivation, right? And I was also 17, 18 years old. And anytime I would feel like it, I would go to the gym. And I tried to set myself up by putting gym clothes in my bag and driving to the gym. And it's ironic thinking about it because I also got a D in gym class my sophomore year because mentally I was going through a lot and I refused to change for gym class. And so I literally got a D once. So it's ironic that eventually not only was I going to the gym when I was a senior, but I then became a fitness professional. Yeah. Okay. So, I did that. And then throughout college, I had a varied history when it comes to just wanting to be skinny. My whole life, I had just wanted to be skinny. And one day I found these fitness influencers that were super muscly. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. And I went it was a whole roller coaster for years. And then I found powerlifting and I dove really into that. And then I kind of lost myself a little bit in terms of what I wanted for my physique and my health wise. And then I quit my job, went back to school and stress out the wazoo, crazy amounts of stress all the time. My back, my neck, they all really hurt because of all the things. And also I had gotten reconstructive shoulder surgery. And ultimately I was in a lot of pain pretty frequently, as well as having a lot of gut issues. I had gut issues my whole life, but I remember when I was 24, there were times that I could not go to work because of what I had going on. And it would cycle. It got way less intense and then it would cycle, whatever. I have literally spent the better half of 2024 no. Since the summer of 2023, I invested in myself. And originally I was working with a hormone coach and trying to figure that stuff out. Ultimately, that didn't necessarily work out because I really needed to focus on my gut and get that into a better spot. And I just didn't know where to start. So I invested in myself, got a coach, along with my powerlifting coach. And then when the next stuff happened, I just decided to take a break from powerlifting. And I am literally the healthiest I've ever been. My Whoop is always so proud of me. Okay. My Whoop is hey, your HRV is so high. Back in July of 2023 to November of 2023, my HRV, my heart rate variability was in like consistently in the 40s, and like those numbers mean nothing except for the fact that like higher is better. And over the course of the last few months, it's been in the 70s. Like that is a drastic change. And a lot of that, I'm not doing cardio. Like I at one point I was like trying, because my like nutrition coach was like, hey, you need to do cardio. And like I was like, hey, I have not been compliant. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I have not been compliant with cardio. She knows that, it's fine. But, it's not because I was like, oh, like doing all these cardio stuff. It's because I truly have invested in taking care of my health overall. So a lot of the things that, kind of where this started was with my nutrition coach, with my powerlifting coach, who's like still coaching me just like on general fitness and physique goals and stuff like that, was like, okay, like there's all these things that I need to do, but I really struggled figuring out how the F I was going to do it with like my schedule and just like my mindset and like everything that was going on up here. And then on top of that, planning a wedding that is from this recording, it's happening in 9 days, wild. And then, we moved to Richmond. We bought a new house. Now our other house is up for rent again, and I'm trying to find a renter. Like, so much stuff always kind of happening. And I felt like every week I was doing these check-ins and I was just feeling like a failure because I just wasn't sure how the heck I was going to get it all together. And so what I truly had to do is I had to sit down and I had to be like, okay, you know that you have these things to do and you kind of have these arbitrary ideas of like when you can do them, or you're like, oh, okay, well, like, as the day comes, I'll just do it when I have time. Like, realistically, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for majority of human beings, right? Like, we are people that need to be to deadlines. I mean, even recording this podcast, I literally changed the time on my Google Calendar multiple times because I wanted to procrastinate, because I wanted to sit here and watch TV instead. But I had to do something really difficult and be like, no, Kate, you have to do this. So here I am. But ultimately, like, what all of these different things that I did, right? Like a lot, and a lot of the things I learned and grew from, and I really push my clients to do, is finding out truly like what your goals are. So for me, I wanted to lose a lot of body fat. I felt like I was just like gaining body fat, and like I was working out and just continuing to like stay in this higher fat index than I wanted to be in. And I wasn't gaining any muscle. I was just like kind of like maintaining the muscle that I had. And I thought that I had to maintain the types of workouts that I was doing in order to maintain that type of muscle. But truly, like, no. And so what was interesting is I look back and I actually haven't lost any muscle mass. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, I really took a step back and I was like, okay, what are your goals? And like, I wanted to lose some body fat, and I wanted to be a better version of myself. And like, I wasn't really sure what that was, except for the fact that I knew I had a lot of mental like brain fog, and I knew I was super tired every morning and super irritable. And like with stress, like that's always going to like kind of play a factor. But when my life wasn't stressful, like why was I feeling that way? And a lot of it was because I wasn't taking care of myself in a lot of ways. And so I had to sit down and be like, okay, like what are the non-negotiables every single day that I have to do, right? Like what do those look like? And what does that look like from a week perspective, from a month perspective, etc. And for us, like we really like going out to dinner. Like that is just something we love doing. We love going on errands and just like on a whim being like, hey, we're gonna go here for lunch, whatever. We love checking out new places. We also love IPAs and wine. And so we do, we like to go out to different breweries and wineries and check those places out and things like that. So obviously, when you think of a healthy lifestyle, you're like, how could you possibly incorporate that and do that, right? And one thing that my coach said to me that I was like, oh my gosh, this really sticks, is she was like, you're in this like cut phase, right? And you want to lose this body fat, but you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're doing it when you feel like it. And then when you don't feel like it, you're like, it's okay. No big deal. And I think that truly clicked for me, because I was like, you're right. Like I actually have a goal with a timeline right now, which is my wedding. So I needed to buckle down and be like, okay, like I have this goal with this timeline. I don't really, like I can stay one foot in, one foot out and just kind of like live this lifestyle. Or I can buckle down and I can say, for these 4 weeks, I'm going to get so serious. I'm going to lose all this weight. And then once that like timeline or date kind of comes around, then I can just maintain what I've done, right? But for these long durations of time, I was just kind of like ebbing and flowing. And like, yeah, the scale was going down, but it was like every week, like I was just kind of like, whatever. So now, truly like what I ended up kind of doing was I obviously was pulling calories, taking food away, whatever. And I had to like really sit in that because I was nervous about it. And I had to really sit in that. And I'd be like, okay, this is temporary. This is temporary. And continue to say this is temporary. And then when we got about a month out from the wedding, I looked at the calendar and I was like, okay, I'm not traveling with soccer. I'm not traveling with my parents. I'm not doing anything. I have 4 weeks of eating like where I can control 100% of the food that I eat. So that's what we did. I buckled down and I have eaten at home every single day. And I have dropped a pound a week ever since I did that, right? Like, and that is the key, is making sure you don't have 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of a thing. Now, if you don't have like a timeline in mind and you want to learn mindful living, that's where we kind of look at that 85% compliance. So that was, the overall goal, overarching concept. But a lot of like the little things that I did was figure out which foods were really like triggering me. So Brussels sprouts, which is unfortunate because I really like them. Broccoli, not unfortunate because I don't like broccoli. And those are the two like big ones. I stay away from those. And I tell you, my bloat has gone down significantly because I was eating those like 2 to 3 times a week. I've increased my fiber intake and I've been more conscious. So like I have a Whoop, which is great and I love it, but it doesn't count steps. So it's really hard to like figure out how much activity you've done throughout the day. So I started wearing my Fitbit to get me steps. Is it on? Hello? Yeah. To give me steps throughout the day. So in that way I can feel like I can see a movement goal. Now, I'm going to stop wearing this at some point. I don't know when, but I'm not trying to wear 2 watches all the time. But I really needed to see and be exposed to those numbers because in the summer I wasn't understanding like how it was possible that I wasn't losing weight because I was so active. Once I started wearing the Fitbit though and looking at my steps, I was like, okay, interesting. And then now that we're in season and like the semester is rolling, I see that like what the differences are. And I can truly tell at this point how my body feels when I get enough movement versus how it doesn't, both in a good and a bad way. Like when I'm feeling really sluggish and tired and not alert, chances are I haven't moved enough. I literally probably like I'm not necessarily feeling that way because I'm working. So like I'm feeling really mentally stimulated, but I've gotten 1,000 steps today and it is 12:42 by the time of this recording. So, previously I would have told you like, yeah, I know I rested most like, today, but it's fine. Like I know I still got, 5,000 steps. No, Kate, like you didn't. But I didn't know that until I had the data in front of me. And then I thought I was eating incredibly healthy, right? Like Brussels sprouts sound really healthy. Broccoli, it's what a lot of fitness people eat. Rice, so healthy. I make my own sourdough. I make my own butter. But truly, at the end of the day, it's really like there's so much more that matters to that, right? So increasing my fiber was incredibly important and knowing when to incorporate like a supplement. So there are some nights that I'm like, oh, I've only gotten 21 grams of fiber in. And I know I've eaten pretty healthy throughout the day, but maybe I didn't eat a banana or, maybe I had a little less vegetables than I usually have. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to have a fiber supplement at the end of my night, right? And I'm just going to supplement my diet. Of course, I'm going to try really hard to get it through whole foods. But if I can't, great, then I'm just going to have a supplement and that's okay. And these are things that I want to continue to maintain even after the wedding, right? Even on my wedding night, like we are serving veggies and Brussels sprouts is going to be one of the veggies. I'm not going to eat them. And the reason I'm not going to eat them is not because I'm like, oh, I can't, I want to be restrictive, whatever. It's because they literally make my stomach look very round. And I don't want to look very round on my wedding night. So we still have a lot of dancing to do after the dinner, and I want to make sure I have the donuts and my Portuguese pastries and all the things. I'm saying all of this stuff and it's going to have happened by the time you're listening to this. But anyway, what else? So the overarching concepts of like what I've done to truly get myself like in shape and fit for my wedding is it wasn't, oh, I worked out crazy, because I honestly am working out less than I was before. Doing a ton of cardio, still not, I don't do cardio, right? It's truly looking at the daily non-negotiable tasks that I do and how consistent I can be with those and where those can take me, right? The fiber, the water, the movement, tracking my food, being really intentional of what I'm eating. All of those things have carried me to a place of great success for, my fitness goals, my physique goals. And after the wedding, in order to maintain these, I'm just going to take everything that I learned and I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm probably not going to keep eating in a calorie deficit because I, likely don't want to lose any more weight by that time. I'm probably just going to go into a maintenance and try to recomp a little bit more and maximize the amount of muscle that I can get on this current frame that I have. And then from there, I'll decide where I want to go. But truly, it's understanding that all of this work that I've been doing for these last 6 months isn't now, okay, I've met this goal, now I can let it go out the window. I have to maintain this lifestyle and these habits that I've built for myself to keep it going. Like that is just that, there is no other option. And at the end of the day, that's my point of emphasis every time I work with any of my clients. We work together for 6 months because, no, don't include that. We work together to build habits and a foundation that will support the lifestyle. So in that way, it's not a hamster wheel of motivation and like, oh, I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to get in shape. And then I'm just going to lose it all and go back to where I was and try to figure out how I got there, right? We want to build habits that will sustain us for the rest of our lives, no matter what life throws at us. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing after the wedding, is just maintaining all the things that I've learned and built. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you got something out of it. Like I said, consistency is key. Maintaining that throughout life is key. Motivation isn't going to get you there. Results and habits, foundation, and consistency is. If you need help with any of that, I got you. Let me know. I'll chat with you next time.